So, I'll just turn it over to you.
Sounds good, all right.
So I didn't realize that the topic was social justice. but I think that we can twist this around and make it about social, yeah, we can change it, that's right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'll just get you to tell me if I'm not speaking loudly enough, okay? Because I definitely want everyone to hear what I have to say. All right. What did I miss? That's the first thought that pops into my head when I wake up in the morning. Before breakfast, before coffee, before I even get out of bed, I'm scrolling eagerly through my social media in search of the latest news. Then as the day progresses, I go back regularly for updates, right up until my head hits the pillow that night. Friends and family wonder what I get out of this strange addiction, when so much of the news is bleak, depressing, or downright infuriating. For years, I wondered the same thing. After reading a piece that shook my faith in humanity, I'd ask myself, why do I bother? What keeps me coming back for more day after day? Am I a masochist? Do I secretly enjoy feeling outrage, sorrow, and helplessness? I've been giving it some thought lately, and I think I have a theory. I think I'm addicted to the news because it reveals the paradox of the human condition in clear and undeniable terms. It forces me to reconcile what I know about humankind from a theoretical standpoint with the stuff I read about in the news each and every day. Theoretically speaking, our species has a lot going for it. Bipedal posture, manual dexterity, and big, sexy brains make us resourceful and adaptable. We're wired up to feel empathy, built for cooperation, and blessed with the gift of reason. This is wisdom, but I think they're similar. Wisdom and reason, right? We can live in any climate, think conceptually, and exercise power over ourselves and our surroundings. Put simply, no living organism on Earth is capable of doing what we do on the scale we do it on. The name we've given ourselves seems well earned. Homo sapiens sapiens. Wisest of the wise ones. Of course. Who else but us? The difference between this theoretical wise being and its real-life counterpart is never more glaring as when I read the news. A species of wise beings wouldn't fight over trivia, kill in the name of ideas, and destroy the only home they've ever known. They wouldn't argue and scream at each other over politics, religion, culture, sports, sex. Blessed with every advantage for survival, they wouldn't spend all this time inventing new ways to kill each other. Provided with abundant resources, they wouldn't devise schemes to concentrate wealth in the hands of the few. Connected by an intricate web of life, they wouldn't feel so disconnected from each other and Mother Nature. Would they? Yet that's exactly the predicament many of us face today. What some like to call the human condition. Here's another question I grapple with. How did this discrepancy come about? It's tempting to blame technology or religion or lack of religion or government. It would be easy to accuse entitled millennials or job-stealing immigrants or greedy 1%ers. But where would that get me? Blaming people and institutions is a dead-end road. I want to move beyond blame to the root causes of our collective dysfunction. I want to know why we're self-destructing when we have so many advantages for survival at our disposal. Here's another thought. What if the problems of the whole are made up of individual shares? What if each of us is contributing in some small way to the human condition? That would mean I'm part of the problem too, and by extension, part of the solution. Now this reminds me of something the poet Rumi once said. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise and try to change myself. Change, that's right, thank you. Instead of trying to diagnose and solve the human condition, maybe I should find the wisdom to look into my own condition first. Maybe if I figure out what I'm contributing to our collective dysfunction, I can finally be part of a solution. So let's talk about my dysfunctions then, shall we? When my wife and I are out in public, it's only a matter of time before she catches me gazing intently. That's when she hits me in the arm and says, "Stop staring. That's rude." But I can't stop. It's part of my condition. As far back as I can remember, I've been a people watcher. I suspect it has something to do with my being an only child. Deprived of siblings, I was left either to my own devices or in the company of other boring adults. To keep boredom at bay, I developed two strategies. One, withdrawn to myself and dream up fantastical stories to keep me entertained. And two, quietly observe the adults around me, listen to their conversations, and study their actions. In this way, I started building up a database of human speech and behavior. I slowly became aware of certain patterns, and more importantly, contradictions. Mostly I noticed how seldom people's words aligned with their actions, and how seldom they seemed to notice this fact. I was and I continue to be fascinated by human beings, by what drives and motivates us, and by the stories we tell each other to make sense of this vast and sometimes frightening universe. And this lifelong fascination, I believe, has paid off. It helped me become a better judge of character and more effective communicator. It also allowed me to help friends and family members diagnose personal problems, resolve conflicts, and process trauma. But constantly looking at other people caused some unpleasant side effects as well. It made me quick to judge, quick to blame, and quick to criticize others harshly. It made me arrogant, impatient, and insensitive. After all, if I could see people so clearly, why couldn't they see themselves in the same way? I often found myself wondering, how can they be so blind? But in fact, it was I who was blind. Eager to watch and weigh in on others, I had yet to subject myself to that same treatment. And as I would later discover, it was I who needed it most of all. What good is it to know others if you don't know yourself? Thankfully, I'm not the only one who has this particular blind spot. They even have a term for it in psychology. They call it Solomon's paradox. And here's a little explanation I found online about this wonderful little bias we all seem to have. King Solomon is considered the paragon of wisdom and sage judgment. It's said that during his long reign, people traveled great distances to seek his counsel. Yet, it's also true that his personal life was a shambles of bad decisions and uncontrolled passions. He kept hundreds of pagan wives, That's 100. And he also loved to boast about his riches. He neglected to instruct his only son, who grew up to be an incompetent tyrant. All of these sins and misjudgments contributed to the eventual downfall of his kingdom. So put simply, Solomon's paradox describes our tendency to assess others more accurately than we assess ourselves. Looking into other people's lives from the outside, we tend to see things pretty clearly. But when we look into our own lives, well, it's a slightly different story. Favorite author of mine, Joseph Campbell, once said, "The cave you fear to enter contains the treasure you seek." In my youth, I thought he was just referring to mythology. But in recent years, this line has acquired new meaning for me. The cave I feared to enter was my psyche, that inner dimension where belief, character, and memories dwell. I was scared to enter because I suspected that I would find something ugly in there. And when I finally set foot in the cave, what I discovered wasn't the person I pictured myself to be, nor the person I portrayed myself to be, but the person I actually was. And sure enough, it wasn't pretty. In mythological terms, what I found in here is my inner dragon, a monstrous, cunning, greedy creature, determined to protect itself and its heap of treasure at all costs. In recent years, I have faced this dragon more times than I can count. And each encounter yielded uncomfortable revelations about the person I was at the time. Among other things, I discovered that I'd been mistreating the people I care most about, that I'd been harboring uninformed opinions, that I'd been clinging to irrational beliefs about the world and my place in it. These revelations yielded feelings of shame, guilt, and most of all, embarrassment. I had always prided myself on knowing people. Yet here was proof positive that I didn't even know myself. There was such a gap between the image I had of myself and the real me, between how I saw myself and how I actually was. I used to believe I was entertaining, the life of the party. But in fact, and upon reflection, I realized I was a know-it-all, a buffoon. I would do anything to get a few laughs, including embarrass friends or myself, and make others feel small. I believed that I was open-minded, but in fact I was caged in by walls of certainty. I viewed my opinions as fact, my beliefs as truth, and my perspective as reality. Now I could go on like this for hours, but we don't have the time, and I hope you get the idea. After each unpleasant revelation, I grappled with self-loathing. How could I be like this? Ew! It felt gross. But then the feelings of shame and guilt would recede, and in their place, I'd find the most unexpected thing: relief, followed by a grim sense of satisfaction. To every gross character flaw I discovered, I'd say, I didn't know about you before, and you had your way with me. But now I got my eyes on you, buddy. You're not going to have your way with me anymore. Your days are numbered. And in this way, each disturbing discovery led me step by step deeper into the cave I had feared to enter, toward the treasure I'd been seeking all along. Now in the West, Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. In the East, Lao Tzu made a similar statement when he said, knowing others is cleverness, but knowing yourself is true wisdom. Of all the treasures I have found while journeying within myself, wisdom is indeed the greatest treasure of all. And I believe that it's precisely what we need, now more than ever. I was looking at pictures from a march for science, which took place last April. And the picture that I was looking at was of a protester holding up a sign that said, "I can't believe I'm marching for facts." This person was shocked that this is the type of thing that he should be protesting. He was marching for facts. Well, guess what? In a society that gathers knowledge faster than wisdom, this is exactly what we should expect. Because facts are rarely self-evident, and discernment requires more than mere knowledge. What good are knowledge and information without the ability to understand them? And furthermore, what good is understanding without the ability to apply said understanding to the real world in a practical and effective manner? Anybody can know something. A clever person understands it, but the wise one brings her understanding with her everywhere she goes and applies it to every aspect of her life. Wisdom allows us to see clearly, reason effectively, and feel deeply. Described in such lofty terms, you might think it's some rare and exotic quality, but remember, as Lao Tzu, Aristotle, and countless others have pointed out over the centuries, wisdom is both common and readily available to each of us. It's there, inside all of you, and inside me right now. All we have to do is dig a little. So if you're concerned about the human condition like I am, or if you're appalled by the corruption, ignorance, and violence that currently grips the earth, if you have a vision of a better world and wish to make it manifest, then I encourage you all to journey into that spooky, spooky cave. Find your inner dragon, what Carl Jung called the shadow, and what others call simply the ego. Shine the flashlight of awareness in its face and keep your eyes on it at all times. I don't think it's possible or even desirable to slay this inner dragon, but with knowledge of self in hand, I'm happy to report that I've been able to tame it and make it a relatively well-behaved house pet. If you haven't already done this, maybe you can take the journey and do the same. And if you have enough energy left after this heroic endeavor, I invite you to emerge from the cave and embody those changes you wish to see made manifest in the world. Thank you.